Welcome, everyone. I'm Jennifer Noel Taylor, and I'm so happy that we're starting a new show called Quantum Touch Radio. Thanks so much for tuning in. And today I have a really amazing guest. We have Richard Gordon, the founder of Quantum Touch. And just to give you a little background, Richard Gordon is a visionary and a pioneer with 40 plus years of experience in the field of energy medicine. He's the best-selling author of Quantum Touch, The Power to Heal, Quantum Touch, The New Human, The Secret Nature of Matter, and Your Healing Hands, The Polarity Experience. As the founder of Quantum Touch, Richard traveled internationally speaking at medical centers, conferences, chiropractic colleges, and was faculty at the Hartwood Institute and the Holistic Health Institute. What's really amazing is Dr. Norm Shealy, the founding president of the Holistic American Medical Association, endorsed the work and called it the first technique that may truly allow all of us to become healers. And Quantum Touch has been in business for over 19 years and currently has over 1,000 certified practitioners all around the world. So welcome, Richard. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate being here.
Great. Well, I'm going to start out with, for people who may not be familiar with Quantum Touch, if you could do a description of what is Quantum Touch.
Quantum Touch is a form of energy healing that allows ordinary people to do extraordinary work. And when I talk about the work, we're really talking about the body's own self-healing mechanism. You see, the movies would have you believe that somebody is born with this amazing gift. They were touched by an alien, a dolphin, the seventh son of a seventh son, comet struck them, or they had some extraordinary gift that they were born with. But the truth is that everybody is a healer, because if you've ever cut your finger and it healed, you are a healer. What we've learned to do with Quantum Touch is to use breathing, body awareness, and your love to move this energy through our body. Now, the energy we're talking about is known as the life force energy, chi, ki, prana, and there's 70 odd words that different cultures have used to describe this energy. And we harness it, we raise our vibration. And then through a process of resonance and entrainment, you create a field with your hands, and the other person matches your vibration. Their own body intelligence and spiritual intelligence does its own self-healing. It's almost like jumper cables getting a battery to start up. We're providing the energy to let their system do what it wants to do. And by using some very simple techniques that 7 or 8 year olds could easily pick up and start using, we can start seeing things happen that confound and amaze professionals, nurses, doctors, chiropractors, physical therapists, wide range of health practitioners, Reiki, you name it. We can show them how to amplify energy. So Quantum Touch is a way that we can accelerate healing, bring down pain, inflammation, etc. But it's actually much more than that.
Yes. So what was your, what I call aha moment when you discovered energy healing and decided this was your life work?
I guess the aha moment happened in about 1974, 75. I don't remember exactly, but it's right around then. And I was going to the school in New Mexico called the Cristo School of Natural Healing with Dr. William Lasassier. And he brought in a couple of polarity therapy instructors from California. And I was in a terrible mood that day. Not that that ever happens to me, but I was in a really bad mood. And this woman gives me a polarity therapy session, and it took me from feeling my worst to my best in about an hour. I was astounded by that. I was also completely fascinated because I was able to feel the energy weeks before I had that session. I was aware of the life force energy. I had other experiences over the years where I could start to feel the energy. And when I realized how powerful this was and what an important discovery it was, some part of me lit up inside, realizing that I always wanted to be able to bring something to the world that would be of great value. And I thought that polarity was exactly what it was. And I believed that until summer of 1978, just before my first book came into print. And that's when I met Robert Rasmussen, who showed me the basis of quantum touch. And he was making these big claims, and I didn't believe anything he said. He was a big, obese grandpa guy who was just telling tall tales, and I couldn't believe anything he was saying was possibly true. And what I did was I watched him work, and he touched my girlfriend's hips, and she had a major scoliosis. And watching standing right in front of me, I just watched them roll back into alignment and align just under his touch. And I saw him work up and down her spine and straighten out about half of her scoliosis in about 8 or 10 minutes. Well, I was hooked, and I apprenticed with him, took over in his retirement, and evolved his work radically over and over and over again since that day. And now we're in a place where we're seeing things that are off the charts, essentially. We're seeing things that the world has not accepted as being a possible reality. And yet it can be shown in seconds to anybody willing to look.
So what are you seeing when you say we see things that people can't believe? What are tell us some stories.
Okay, well, aside from the healing stories, which I probably should start with, we've seen an infant with severe fetal alcohol syndrome that had a prognosis of a 20 to 40 IQ and lifelong institutionalization, addicted to amphetamines, quickly become average height and weight, get to be above average intelligence. We saw a baby in China who was shaken and had severe brain damage. They thought she was going to die. And the community sent energy, both hands-on and distant healing. And now she's totally doing wonderfully, thriving, probably about 5 years old now, maybe 6. We've seen during surgery where blood oxygen levels are crashing, and the nurse anesthesiologist puts her hand on the patient and regularly brings the blood gas levels up. That means they don't go into a coma and die, that she basically saves their life by being able to run the energy and do this thing. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, because we also see other kinds of phenomenon, being able to find the emotional causes of health conditions in a process that took me over 30 years to develop, called self-created health. And when people release those emotions, not only do symptoms go away, but they're grateful they had the condition. And then I found a way of exploring the intersection of matter and consciousness in an empirical way. And there's been an evolution of a demonstration that I've done over the years, where it started where you could just touch somebody's hips and get them to roll back. And everybody who takes a level 1 quantum touch class can do that. You can touch the cranial bones. And if they're uneven, before lunch break on the first day, you can move the cranial bones right back into alignment, which is considered physiologically impossible. But then I discovered that I could put consciousness into any kind of physical object: glass, plastic, rubber, paper, pebble, feather, you name it. And all objects were able to hold consciousness. And so that's another entire study that continues to astound me.
So here's something that I've noticed. It's an interesting phenomenon as you speak about. You have shown like the occiput coming back into alignment, the hips straightening out to skeptics, to people
Yes.
who didn't believe this. And my question is, when you showed it to a skeptic, what was their response?
Well, that's a very interesting question. When Galileo showed the phases of Venus through his telescope to the priests of his time, who were the not quite scientists, there were 3 responses that he got. The first kind said, well, the telescope works great during the day, but it doesn't work at night. The second kind said, well, this can't be true because God made everything perfect and there can't be moons around Jupiter or phases of Venus. And the third kind said, how do I get one of these? And can I look through again and let me understand it? Tell me about optics. How does optics work? And I'm running into the same basic kind of thing where Some of the skeptics are very excited and want to learn. A lot of them just dismiss it and walk away, and they have no curiosity whatsoever. A third kind happened to me when I went to the University of Arizona and showed a room full of scientists that I could touch somebody with an object I'd meditated on, say Boyne, and when I touched their shoulder, and instantly untwist both the hip and the cranial bones. They got very excited, and 4 of them said they wanted to research and publish. And that was very exciting to me. Then they bragged about the special equipment that they had, the MRIs, CT scans, ultrasound, and other equipment. And then they thought about it, and the first guy said, but if I research this, I know I'll never get tenure at the university. And the second, third, and fourth all said that studying this would be academic suicide. And then the head professor said, yeah, there's probably not a single university in the United States or Europe that's open to this kind of a discovery. Because essentially what I had done was break the model of physics that says that every phenomenon that exists has to have a mechanism that can be explained with math, physics, and logic. And when there's no mechanism to explain why something happened, well, you broke it. You know, we don't want to have any part of this, because science, as much as they claim to be empirical, is very much a game of politics and money and position and authority and reputation. And these people realized that it would destroy their reputation and their entire career, for that matter, if they were to step out and acknowledge what they saw. And that really surprised me, because I'm very innocent in a way. I really wanted to believe that if I showed them something amazing, they go, oh, this is a breakthrough, let's study it. Yeah, well, my naivete showed up on that one.
Guess there's a whole lot more involved than just studying phenomenon. So we're going to go take a break. We're getting ready to take a break. And when we come back, I want to delve more into the mind of a skeptic. And we have some other questions about energy healing. And then we also want to take questions from our audience. So We're going to go ahead and go on a short break. Welcome back. You're listening to Quantum Touch Radio. And today we have the founder of Quantum Touch, Richard Gordon. And we're picking his brain about quantum touch and how we got started. And we just talked about skeptics. And now I want to jump over to a new topic, which actually really fascinates me, is self-created health. In our earlier interview, Richard said that a lot of diseases can be caused by our emotions. And I wanted you to expand on that and explain, like, how is that link between how we're feeling in our emotions and disease?
Well, I find it absolutely fascinating that the psychological profession as a whole, I've been to conferences, these people tend to be very afraid of the intensity of their own emotions, when they should be the ones who are most available emotionally to express themselves. They have shown themselves often to be the least available. And there's something so incredibly simple and straightforward. Well, my aha moment of this came in 1980, when I woke up one morning with intense flu symptoms, a deep gurgling chest cough, high fever, terrible sore throat, bones aching, congestion, on and on. And I thought I was going to be sick for at least a week with this flu. With the fever and the gurgling chest cough, it seemed inevitable. But I had just attended a seminar with a spiritual teacher who suggested that all illness is emotionally self-induced, and it's all caused by suppressed anger. So I thought I'd give it a try. I wrapped myself in my blanket, crawled out of bed. Instead of running for the hot lemon water, I started asking myself the question, what am I upset about? And I couldn't find anything. In fact, oddly enough, in retrospect, I realized I was emotionally numb that morning. I couldn't feel any emotion. And I started looking at my childhood and all kinds of places, and I couldn't find anything to to get me emotionally riled up. And then all of a sudden, after about 8 or 10 minutes of looking, I suddenly remembered that somebody in my household had said something that was designed to humiliate me in front of friends. And all of a sudden, like, wow, it's like the emotion came flooding in on me. And I had my rage and my pain. I cried a little bit. I just let myself vent and feel it without any resistance. Just feel what was there. So I got up and I took a shower and I drove downtown Santa Cruz where I was living and sat in the sun drinking coffee, my favorite coffee place. And halfway through the cup, I looked into the cup and suddenly realized, oh my God, I was sick this morning. It took me a couple years to figure out a way of discovering emotional causation, but it took me almost exactly 30 years to put together an entire system. And that system is still evolving. We call the system self-created health. And what it is it's a way to first find the emotional cause. If you haven't found the cause, you really can't do step 2 of the process or any of the other 7 steps. The first step is, what's the emotional cause of why this is there? We find the emotional cause very easily, very quickly, by asking simple interrogative questions like, what emotions do you feel because you're sick? When did it begin? And so forth. And I'll pump them for answers. And in 10 minutes or 20 minutes, I usually have 30 to 40 answers from the person. They're describing their condition to me. And then when I play it back to them, I'll say, well, let's see, this condition started 12 years ago. Where were you 12 years ago? They remember. And I said, well, at around that time, because it's general, was there an emotional situation that, and I read some of their most graphic answers, where you felt like you were being repeatedly stabbed in the back, where you felt hopeless? And I'll say, well, yeah. I said, what was that about? Oh, it's my relationship with my ex or my dad. And I'll say, well, let's see if this fits. And very gradually, I'll go through all 40 of their replies one by one. Well, did you feel depressed? Yes. Did you feel there's nowhere you could go? Yes. Anyway, I just run through all their answers and everyone fits like a glove to describe that emotion. And I'll say, well, what do you do with this set of emotions? They say, they're the ones I never want to feel. And then I slide the list over to them and say, maybe you're feeling it in your body instead of feeling it as emotion. And by now, they own it. But here's an interesting thing. I don't even know their story. I haven't spent years talking about their dreams. I don't know anything about the situation. All I know is that it caused them a certain kind of emotional and physical distress. That's all I know. I don't even have to know what the name of the condition is. But they describe it. And once they own it, they have accomplished step 1 of the process. Step 2 of the process is a release. And there's different techniques for releasing the hurt, the anger, the guilt, the shame, and the fears. These are the 5 big ones that really distress people, that where they take their physical condition and put it into their body. The third step of the process is crucially important. But if you haven't done step 1 and 2, trying to do step 3 becomes destructive to the person. The third step of the process is where they realize they had hurt themselves by suppressing their emotions. They try to take responsibility, essentially, for having hurt themselves with a condition. Now, people who jump to responsibility without knowing why it's there and haven't released the emotion, all they're capable at that point of doing is beating themselves up. Because if you haven't released the intensity and you haven't understood why it was there, you don't have any capacity of being responsible for what you attracted or created. So the fourth step, after they've released those emotions, which takes some time, because you got to do child work, adolescent work, and so forth, is to then go to feel the damage that you've done to yourself and others, the remorse step. That only takes 5 or 10 minutes to feel the depth of remorse. Then comes self-forgiveness. And I came up with this very dynamic self-forgiveness process that turns into explosive, overwhelming self-love on the other side. And not only do people have their condition disappear, but they could be incredibly grateful for having had the condition because it showed how they had stopped loving. That the body has the ability to be sick, not as a dysfunction, but as a communication from their own higher consciousness. And that's the real amazing thing. We go from condition to awareness, to release, to remorse, to self-forgiveness, to unfathomable joy and gratitude, to health. And what this technique actually could be in the long run is a bridge between psychology and medicine. And this could actually be a whole department at universities if they weren't afraid to study it. But at this point, I haven't been able to find any place that is open to researching this. But we're seeing that probably about 40% of the people who learn this technique can walk themselves successfully all the way to the other side. And what I'd like to see in the future is some coaches to hold people's hands and get a higher level of compliance, because everybody can do this. But sometimes the emotions are just so raw, some people give up on themselves before they get to the other side. And if we had coaches, we would get 80, 90, maybe more percent of people being able to heal themselves just by processing emotions. So the combination of the energy healing and the emotional work would handle so much of what we see in the medical industry that's symptom-based and chemical and surgery-based, rather than dealing with energy, love, honesty, and transformation.
Well, I thank you for sharing the process. I just have to make a small point. It seems to me that the idea of self-created health suggests that people are responsible for their diseases. Isn't that a bit controversial?
It's extremely controversial because the world loves victims and they love supporting victims. Well, it's not your fault, that you have this problem. It's just, toss of a coin. It's not your lifestyle that affected your weight. It's not your suppressed emotions that are expressing themselves as outer realities. It really is a challenging philosophy at the core, because it recognizes on some level that we're spiritual beings and we're being guided all the time through the expressions of the outer reality. It's a completely different philosophy, just like quantum touch is a completely different worldview, realizing that love is not just an epiphenomenon of brain activity, but is an expression of our spiritual nature. And if we're just physical meat machines walking around, we really have no power to do any of this stuff. But we can show that we are so much more than this. And it's just been an ongoing thing for me to learn, because I've stepped so far outside the box to learn that a lot of people don't want to leave the box. And they want to keep the same boundaries and limitations on their beliefs. And what I have is a number of breakthroughs that I guess I'm just ahead of my time in that regard, because if the universities or hospitals or medical people were interested in seeing something that was outside the box that worked, I'd be thrilled to show them. But at this point, there's no invitation for that.
Well, yeah, I think one of the challenges, and what we also call the paradigm, the new paradigm that we're ushering in with quantum touch, is it's empowering yet challenging at the same time. The empowering part is, yes, you are responsible, that you have created your condition, which it's hard to take. I think it's hard for people to want to, like the last thing you want to hear when you have a health problem is like, what did you do to create this? Like, that's the most insensitive thing you could say to somebody. So it's a very touchy situation. So, but at the same time, it's very empowering to think that because you created it, you can actually change it. And that's what I love about it, because you're not stuck. I don't like feeling stuck.
It's the most,
But
yeah, it's the most empowering thing possible.
Yeah, I just feel like I love Quantum Touch for we can empower people. So we're going to take our next break, and then we come back. We will take your questions, and we'll have the call-in number when we come back from break. Welcome back. You're listening to Quantum Touch Radio. I'm your host, Jennifer Noel Taylor. And today we have Richard Gordon, our guest. He's the founder of Quantum Touch. And we'd love to hear from you. You can take questions. You can call in at 1-800-930-2819. That's 1-800-930-2819, or type your questions on the Facebook page. And please call in. You can speak to Richard directly, and we would love to take your questions. In the meantime, I want to talk about another topic. It is our newest course called Manifesting Miracles. And what I love about this course is it really applies quantum touch to everyday life. And this is where it gets fun for me. So Richard, if you'd like to describe the Manifesting Miracles course and how you came about it, and what we've been using it for.
It's funny, I always have these aha moments on every one of these courses. It's sort of funny how that happened. When COVID-19 hit, and I didn't know how, and the seminars for Quantum Touch were instantly canceled around the world because it was always people touching each other and working with each other. I wondered how I would pay my mortgage after a while. And I knew I needed to create some more income. And so after trying all the logical ways of bringing it in that weren't working, I remembered that I had bought some really mediocre to lousy stock in a private company 14 years previously. And I tried all the logical ways I could think of selling the stock. This company just makes promises, but they never actually deliver a product. And so they just keep raising money, but never put out their product. So what I did was I contacted everyone on Twitter that was their friend, and I contacted other companies, and nothing was going to be able to work in terms of being able to move my private shares. And this company wouldn't do business with any other company. So I decided that I had to use a little magic to make that happen, a little law of attraction work. And I've been kind of disappointed with law of attraction in the past because I had been trying to manifest many things that never came to be. And I was pretty disappointed in my hit and miss record with it. So what I did instead was I remembered from my own understanding of metaphysics that there are many possible futures. So instead of trying to make the future real, I found a future that was already real. And then I started sending energy to that future. Now I've been sending energy for over 40 years. So it came like second nature to me to send energy to that future. And within a couple minutes, 2-3 minutes, that future was lit up. It was on fire. And it became the most dominant future. But the thing that really surprised me, the thing that really shocked me, was the realization that that future was already real. And that future was sending me energy, and I didn't have to do it. So here's the problem with the way the law of attraction has been taught. What it is you enter a situation where you have a desire, you imagine that you already have the object of your desire, and you try to live as if it's already true. So I have the money, the apartment, the fame, the bikini body, the house, the husband, all that stuff. And I pretend that I'm living in it. And what? I'm going to fool the universe into believing me? I'm going to grow by lying? It doesn't even make any sense. How can you grow spiritually by lying? And so what I came up with was, I send energy to this future, but my shock and surprise was that future was sending me energy. Oh, I just get to kick back and feel it loving me. And so that was a real deep surprise to my system. So what happened was I connected with that future. I was sending it energy maybe 15 times a day. But the main thing I was doing was receiving the energy from that future, letting it change me physiologically, letting it change me emotionally. And when I did that, I could feel it was actually changing me and working with me. About 3 days after I did this meditation, or continued living in this meditation, so much so that it felt like there was this bright light shining on me, which was the future. After 3 days, all of a sudden, Jennifer, you received a letter in the mail from a stranger in New Zealand asking about the stock. Now, I've had the stock for 14 years. No one's ever contacted me about it once. And I do this meditation for 3 days and we get a letter. I write him back and he says, sure, I can help you sell shares. In about 5 or 6 weeks, I had about 3.5 years of income from selling shares, and it ended my money concerns. And I was also able to become friends with this guy, and a lot of other positive things happened. I ended up selling my house back in November of last year in 5 days at the asking price. And there was just so many amazing things that came out of it that my new book will be out in about a month or so, maybe a month and a half, called Hacking the Law of Attraction for Effortless Manifestation. So you're welcome to pick up on that. Plus, we have courses now on, what do you call it? Attracting Miracles?
Manifesting Miracles.
Okay, yeah, our course now is called Manifesting Miracles. And if people want to learn that, there's a whole way to get there to be able to use it. So we have instructors now teaching that course. So you're also welcome to study that.
Yeah, I found the law of attraction very frustrating, I have to say, because I would do a little meditation like, oh, money, give me some, or whatever. And like, I noticed that nothing ever appeared, right? Like, oh, I have a new car, or I have this, or I have a house, and it didn't manifest. And I found it very frustrating. And then, so whereas this technique, it's like the future's creating you. So the future is saying, here's your future, here's some guidance to achieve that. And almost like you're surrendering to the highest future. So I really love our course. So we have a question from, oh, go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I was going to read 174 words that I wrote for my new book that speaks of the new philosophy that we're working with. And I've probably read this 200 times. And every time I read it, I'm changed by it. So I ask you, if you're going to listen to this, see how deeply you can let this in and really think about it. It took me 3.5 days to write these 174 words. I'm going to read them to you. Intense suffering always feels far too real. Yet joy and gratitude feel like a dream. Why is this so? You could think about like walking through the snowstorm with a broken foot. It's too real, but you have this lovely day and it just floats by. The physical world is the illusion. Our bodies and possessions are illusions. Love is that which is real. The more love you feel, the more real you become. Manifestation is bringing something from reality into the illusion. There are countless possible futures. Any of them could manifest. Any joyous future you can imagine is more real than you are now. It has more love and less suffering. The more love you feel, the more real you become. Manifestation is not about making a future real. The new future is working to make you more real. You are not manifesting a brilliant future. The brilliant future is manifesting you. Relax and let the future love you. Let it heal and transform you. The secret is to be changed by love. The secret is to be changed by love. The more love you feel, the more you become real. The miracle you seek is you. And so that's the metaphysics. So we're not trying to take something from our imagination and bring it into reality. What we're doing is we're finding a reality that's more connected to source than you are. And it's vibrating closer to your higher self. And what happens is as you receive it, you start to match its vibration. And when the two of you line up, that's when the manifestation shows up. Because it's not that you're trying to make it real, it's making you real. Because the love is the more real thing. And then you get the thing in the illusionary body where I got the money or sold my house, or whatever it is. So that's the new perspective on it. And I think that should help.
Yes, I think that's a brilliant perspective. It changes our relationship with the law of attraction. We're going to go on break in 3 minutes, but I have a quick question from Sue. What do you say about stress and pain manifestation in the body, and what techniques can I use?
Stress is a generalization for specific emotions. If mom is experiencing a great deal of stress because she's worried her husband's having an affair, she might lose her job, and her child is sick, the answer is not to relax. But if you just talk about stress, well, you need to relax, get a massage. But if those things were going on where you could lose your job, your husband might be having an affair, and the child is sick, relaxing and getting a massage is not the answer. It's only when we generalize very specific and intense emotions and call them stress, do we get the wrong answer to the question, because we're not asking the right question.
So how would you say, what question should you ask?
Well, what are these specific emotions involved, and how can we deal with these emotions in a self-actualizing way? Are you angry? Are you hurt? Are you wounded somehow? Are you depressed? Are you feeling guilty? Are you feeling shame? It could be so many things, but we first need to start with honesty. And as Jiminy Cricket said, honesty is the best policy. Or was it Jesus said, the truth shall set you free? Both JCs seem to have had it right.
Yes, yes.
Whether
Yeah, so you're suggesting self-created health on your life.
Yeah, or you could get quantum touch work done, wearing energy into the area, and that can relieve it and probably cause a lot of transformation. But I always find it better to get to the emotional root and do the deeper work, because the stress didn't come in a vacuum. Just like shame doesn't come in a vacuum. No child is born feeling shameful. Nobody is born feeling stressful. Stress is a reaction to very specific circumstances and emotions. But when we generalize and call it stress, we no longer have to think about what's going on. We're able to neutralize it and give it some pablum name like stress, where we don't have to understand it or think about it.
Well, we're going to go on a break and we'll be back. Sorry. Excuse me. Well, welcome back. You're listening to Quantum Touch Radio with your host, Jennifer Noel Taylor. And we are Richard Gordon. We're interviewing the founder of Quantum Touch. And Richard, so you recently wrote a book called The Secret Nature of Matter a few years ago. And interesting hypothesis that matter can store consciousness, and definitely a foreign hypothesis. So can you describe more about your book and how you discovered that? And just tell us more.
With Quantum Touch, 99% of the people using it are excited because we bring down pain, inflammation, help people recover faster from injury, exercise, whatever it is. That's what they're interested in. But I've always been fascinated by the fact that we have this strange anomaly. You touch a person's hips If they're twisted, you can align the hips without any force, and you can align the cranial bones without force. And I saw that on the very first day I learned the basis of quantum touch from this older gentleman, Robert Rasmussen. And that always became an area of fascination for me. So one day when the evolution of the work was everybody before lunch break in a quantum touch workshop can touch a person's hips, use the breathing and body awareness, and move the hips back to the correct location. Then I discovered that I could meditate on the front of the hips and the back of the hips to get them to untwist and the occiput and be able to align them without touching people. One of my students showed me that if I meditated on a bone behind the nose and eyes called the sphenoid bone, I could align the hips and the cranial bones simultaneously. And that was the basis of what we call the level 2 quantum touch, which shows people how to work faster without even touching people. Well, one day I was in a coffee shop in Santa Monica, and I played golf in the morning, and in my sweater that I played golf in, I had a golf tee, and I had a really dumb thought. I love dumb thoughts. And my thought was, what would happen if I meditate on the golf tee as if it was a person? And I sent energy to the golf tee. When I handed the golf tee to somebody, it immediately aligned their hips and cranial bones. I was shocked, just completely shocked. And I saw it happen 10 times in a row. And I go, okay, well, let's see what happens if I use a pebble or I use a feather or a plastic lid of a cup. And after running a bunch of experiments, I started becoming fascinated, like, oh my God, I'm opening a door here. So I started keeping a journal. I ended up doing 58 experiments to explore the intersection of matter and consciousness. Along the way, I discovered something I call conscious entanglement. You can join objects together in your mind. I tested this by meditating on some change I had never seen before, handing the change out. I joined all the coins together in my mind, handed out to 9 different people, and I kept the 10th coin myself. And then when I touched that coin to one I had previously meditated on, instantly everybody holding one of those coins was aligned. And so my book was called The Secret Nature of Matter, and it described the entire process of how this happens. But it's such a breakthrough, and this is some of what I showed the scientists at the University of Arizona, that we could bring our consciousness and cause the outer reality to respond to consciousness. But this breaks the old model of materialism in science, so it wasn't really very welcomed.
Well, that is kind of radical.
Yeah, I'd
saying
say
that stuff can store consciousness. That's pretty interesting. But I think we all have some experience with that. We walk into a room, we feel a certain vibe, or we I can feel like, I think I have an obsession with new things because it doesn't hold energy from the previous owner. I've been realizing that. And we have a question here. What about chronic diseases like diabetes? What emotions would one examine?
well, we don't ever make any decisions ahead of time about what to examine. I just ask a person questions, and their statements tell us exactly what's at stake. In other words, the emotions you feel as a result of having a condition are a mirror of emotions you didn't want to feel that caused the condition. So I don't do paint by numbers. I don't have a list of emotions and conditions. It's always unique for the individual, just like a dream interpretation would be unique for that person.
So there's no one size fits all situation.
No, there's no simple answer that way, that this means this. But we have a number of testimonials by people using quantum touch that they were able to just energetically affect diabetes. And we have pages and pages of testimonials by people who sharing the kinds of experiences that they've had using the energy. The combination of the energy and the emotions together is an unstoppable synergy that could probably handle an awful lot of what we see in the culture as terms of problems.
Well, yeah, I've noticed when I do sessions, I start with the energy healing, just straight on quantum touch techniques from level 1.
Yeah,
And then if we're not seeing, sometimes we get a mail saying, I'm not seeing the results I was hoping for. A lot of times I feel like that's due to unprocessed emotion. And
exactly.
so that's the next year, right? So it's a great system. A lot of times just the energy healing alone can take care of a lot of issues. Sometimes, especially I think chronic stuff, that can be more like unprocessed emotion and unforgiven scenarios, needing to forgive. And that's what I've noticed. Any closing comments, Richard?
Well,
We have about two
just to
minutes.
finish up on that thought, a chronic condition means an emotion that you've had chronically for a really long time that hasn't been dealt with. I'd say that the bottom line is that we're really working with the energy of love, and that people don't realize how valuable and impactful that their love is. And all the people who've hurt us made us feel like our love didn't matter. And the answer is that our love really does have impact and it's valuable. And that's the bottom line on it all.
Yeah, our vision is to discover the extraordinary healing power of love.
And that's
And
what
I
it
want
is.
to thank everyone. Yes, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you want more information about Quantum Touch, go to quantumtouch.com. I want to thank Richard for being a guest on our first show, Quantum Touch Radio. And thank you so much for being a part of Quantum Touch Radio today, everyone. And have a wonderful day.
You've been listening to Quantum Touch Radio, supercharging your life with Jennifer Noel Taylor. Tune in on transformationtalkradio.com as you take a quantum journey and tap into universal healing quantum touch principles to create an amazing supercharged life. For more information about Quantum Touch, visit quantumtouch.com, and remember, accelerate, revitalize, and engage in your supercharged life.